gateway to East Africa.
Finding and selling genuine Toyota parts should never be a hassle. Attention garage owners and spare parts shop managers. Get 20% discount on all genuine parts purchased from Toyota Rwanda. Trust the only authorized distributor of genuine Toyota parts in Rwanda. For more details, call 0788 314 077 or visit us at Karuruma along Katuna Road today.
Gateway to East Africa.
Initially, I wanted to become a DJ. I was putting on my suit. I looked very professional, very sharp. And these people, I said, no, I have everything that you need. So it's up to you to work with me. Yeah, we're going to do many exercises together. We're going to walk this journey together, and we're going to make it.
But now, you, under your patronage as the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Rwanda, you are going to be bringing in the Africa Congress of Accountants. How have we prepared to make sure that we leverage on everything that this particular Congress is going to be bringing on the table? What would value for Africa look like? For someone who's watching or listening to us right now and they are not in any way within the accounting profession, how do they plug in? This is exclusive accountants.
Eugene, to be honest with you, the next time Rwanda will ever get a chance to host an ACOA, probably to be after 30 years. I want to give you a scenario. Imagine walking into a room full of people and nobody recognizes you or nobody cares who you are.
What else was top on your agenda?
Catch them when they are young. That's one of the strategies that we've gone for.
And if we were to give you a chance here to be our resident DJ, what would be your stage name? Hello there, welcome to Engage, where we don't just ask questions, we seek solutions. As always, my name is Eugene Anangwe. Thank you very much for always being a part of the program. Thank you for the support. Thank you for always engaging us. Tonight on the program, we are hosting someone who's been very critical in the leadership of the public accountants sector. And of course, he has served in various capacities in Rwanda and across the region. He fears no one. He fears nothing. We'll be hearing from the Chief Executive Officer of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Rwanda, whose institute, under its patronage, will be hosting a first one right here in Rwanda, the Africa Congress of Accountants, taking place from the 6th to 9th of May 2025. Let's put our hands together for the Chief Executive Officer of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Rwanda, Amin Miramago. And I must say, indeed, we are very, very honored to be fully supported by the Institute of Certified Public Accountants on this specific episode. And of course, we want to say thank you for joining us and for being with us as you've always done. And today on the program, we are definitely going to be hosting the man himself, like I just said in the introduction earlier on. And I want to give a very warm welcome to Amin Miramago. Thank you very much for making time and for being with us on this particular program today.
Thank you, Eugene.
Right. You've really achieved so much, that I can tell you, because first of all, as a friend, we've had conversations about the back-end story of the work you do at the Institute of Certified Public Accountants and even your personal journey. And before we get into the different roles that you've served in, I want us to take the arm of the clock back, way, way back to your childhood, growing up. I want you just to take us through that particular moment in terms of some of the events in your early life, your upbringing, that you think transformed your worldview today?
I don't know where to begin. I must say that I've had a normal childhood like any other child that grew up in the early 80s, playing around, not having a lot of distractions like people have today. Yeah, just basically enjoying my childhood, playing around, playing with colleagues at school and things of the sort. Yeah, actually, it never occurred to me. I think for me, in terms of shaping my journey, I think it's the work at the Ministry of Finance. I think that's where everything, started, coming up. When you go into Treasury, there's quite a lot of things. It's quite a jungle in itself. Yeah, and you start getting the exposure. You start meeting development partners, the IMF, the World Bank, the bilateral donors and things like that. They start now opening you up, start working with the sectors within the country, and organizing events and things of the sort. It really kind of grills you. But what I liked most was that when we came into the Ministry of Finance, the ministry at the time, they really wanted young, energetic young people that they could mold, and they could shape them into, future leaders and all that. So the moment you enter that door, the first thing they'll tell you, okay, so you've come in as an accountant. Did you know that, you're supposed to be, a certified accountant? Yeah. And there are these programs, the CPA, the SCCA and all those things. Which ones do you want to do? And then you can be able to sign up and start off on your professional journey. Yeah, those are opportunities that you don't get in so many places. You
don't get them in so many places. I still want to keep you back there because, I'm sure there are people who really look at you and are like, how was it like growing up? What was some of the grounding rules from a parental perspective that molded you to who you are today? Because I know you're this person who's not fearful at all. And you've told me even before the types of activities you participate in, high adrenaline games, bungee jumping, all these kind of things. What was it like? The young boy. This is what I would love to really hear before we even get into the Ministry of Finance conversation.
Yeah, as a young boy, what basically the parents had to do is that they had to expose us to the world. That's what they wanted us to have, exposure. It actually meant that they could even, on purpose, arrange for us during those long vacations. They take us to our far distant relatives who are in far lands, actually, for you to go there, and they don't want you to keep you in a comfort zone. So they push you, to a far place. Sometimes some of these places would be hostile. I remember one time I was pushed into one of those pastoralist areas, where they don't do any cultivation, for example. So. And you have to, basically maybe drink milk, and you don't eat food like a whole day or something like that. Because people don't cultivate. So the market probably takes place once every 2 weeks. So you can imagine you don't have a refrigerator and you have to keep food for 2 weeks. So you have to only go for cereals because those are the ones that you can keep quite comfortably. And then you have to manage all those portions until they last you the next market day. So in between, probably you're surviving on milk or maybe porridge, things of the sort. So those kind of environments, they shape you to be able to, to survive and thrive in whatever challenging environment, you put in.
Right. And that's quite interesting because at least it also prepared you to be able to know how to use or spend wisely and account also for everything that is available at your disposal and never take anything for granted in that sense. Tell me a bit about the aspect of, the education aspect, because for you to get to a point of doing the high-level accounting from the perspective that you are, and even leading an institute like ICPAR in that sense, there must have been some specific lessons, some specific subjects that you must have really thrived in, or probably did not, and you're finding yourself in this space as a surprise. So talk to me a bit about that particular journey in that sense.
Actually, I would tell you that it was very interesting because when I started off, actually, initially, I wanted to become a DJ.
We have space here, by the way. We should be talking about.
As a child, music, was something that, was very attractive, to people of our age at the time. Then, as I grew up, then I came to realize that, I looked at the lawyers. Lawyers used to be very smart people, very eloquent. Even I remember in those days, a lot of people who were making it as members of parliament, majority of them actually were lawyers, or even at corporate, even at a corporate level. So, then I developed, were lawyers and also journalists at that time, then I wanted actually to do journalism. So when I went to fill the form, when you're in Form 6, you'd have like a job form, a form that you would fill, trying to choose the kind of, orientation that you want to take. So I was making a choice. I looked for journalism. That year, it wasn't there. And I looked at the form, then I said, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because I was not prepared to have anything else. Then as I was looking through the different courses that were being offered, I saw accounting. It was on top. I said, okay, fine. So if I can't get what I wanted, I see the first thing is accounting. I don't think accounting is a bad thing. So I just ticked actually by chance. I just ticked it, and the rest was history.
The rest was history. How was the transition like to getting into this course that you just saw on top of a list, and now you needed to actually live it, be it?
Yeah. So when I ticked that box, the good news is that the institution where I went, they were training us to be all-rounders. So you had to do engineering mathematics, you would have to do things like technical drawing, even when you're not an engineer actually. So it kind of a way, broadened our perspective of life. And, it means that, you could do anything that would come your way. So for me, what was very important for me, there's an uncle of mine who, told me, said, I mean, a lot of people look for good things, but what I can tell you is that in every little thing that you do, there's always an opportunity. So try to focus on the positive aspects of what you're doing, and I'm sure you'll like it. Because, when you look at the accountancy profession, it's a profession that has a lot of opportunities in it. At the moment, right now, as we speak, you may not even know what is on offer. But those are things that you're going to discover yourself. So don't limit yourself. Keep discovering, keep digging in. You get the bigger picture as you move along. And you're still young anyway. So even if you don't like the journey that you're on, it's not difficult for you to make a U-turn. You
can always make a U-turn and then learn from that. And this now brings me to the aspect of transitioning into your role within as a young professional in that particular sense. If you look back from where you are, from where you sit today, in terms of that particular journey, that process from a career guidance perspective, because a lot of young people today have that particular challenge of even knowing or discovering themselves. How long did it take you? I know you picked the accountant profession at that particular point, but how long did it take you to finally settle in and say, this is it, this is what I want to do? And what message would you give to that young person who's probably also trying to find themselves in that particular space?
Yeah, I would say that my journey as a professional accountant, actually, it never kicked off until when I reached IPA as a CEO, actually. Yeah, mine was a different journey. Initially, even though I did accounting, but when I moved into the ministry, the kind of thing that I got exposed to was more to do with development projects and things of a sort. So accounting was never really top on the list, even though I had projects that still were able to to support the accounting work. But when I got into that position, accounting actually never came until when finally I got into the institute. Now I said, wow. I had my accounting, but I was into project management and development work. So how do I now, recalibrate and go back to the professional accounting? So to me it was a personal challenge. Of course, my role was more of a leadership role, but I found it, from a personal standpoint. I really wanted to really challenge myself and say, okay, fine. So if you're going to be telling people to do something, is it something that you yourself, you've walked through, you've been able to do? So what I would say is that my journey was a bit long, and primarily because I didn't receive the right career guidance. I was just, moving with the flow. Whatever comes my way is what I move in. So I was not really very intentional. And I think that's what happens to so many people. So it means that as a young person, you have to be very intentional earlier on your career. It means that the training institutions or within a family setup or whatever organization support system that you have at your disposal, you need to get the right orientation so that you don't meander, because it's not always very easy when you start meandering that you get an opportunity to get back on track. Sometimes you can just get lost in.
Yeah, quite interesting. I know we will talk about your role at ICPAR as the Chief Executive Officer, but before that, you played several roles in different institutions in different countries across the region, and I'd like you to just also walk us through some of those roles in terms of how they also shaped you to who you are today, and some of the life lessons that you picked from each of these roles. You could probably pick those that you feel this one was a huge turning point, like you mentioned, the Ministry of Finance. Talk to us a bit about that.
I would like to start a little bit earlier. I think in the current UR, actually I began my career actually in what they used to call pre-shipment inspection. It is long before you would have the likes of Rwanda Bureau of Standards. So they were doing pre-shipment inspections. Working with a company called the ITS, Intertech Testing Services. So we're inspecting all the goods that were coming into Rwanda and then helping the Revenue Authority at the time, to determine how much tax, a particular importer is supposed to pay. So it exposed me to the world of business, and logistics, there's always that pace. You can't take all your time. Everything, is a cost. Time is everything. So then from there on, now I moved back to academics. Started off as a teaching assistant, then I grew on to become an assistant lecturer and so on. And that one actually also shaped me, because I remember the first time I went to teach, there was an incident within the department. They brought in one of the lecturers, I think was an Indian, and his pronunciation was very different to what the students would be able to understand, and it was very difficult for him to communicate with the students, and he was the only person available at the time. It just didn't work. And then the head of department came to me and told me, I said, I've played all my cards. You're the only person now that I have, and you have to make it work. And these students, they are far behind because there were so many groups. And that group which this person was handling, was lagging behind the rest of the pack, and it was almost coming to the end of the term, or the semester, and they had to do exams with the rest of the people. So then they threw me, it was huge.
Into the deep end.
You've never told, and you need to work and bring these people to the level where the others are at, and they're able to do their end of semester exams. So I went in, I dug deep. I said, wow. So I went into the class very confidently. I told the students that, look, guys, I have more knowledge than what you require.
You said that straight in the eyes,
straight in the I was putting on my suit. I looked very professional, very sharp. And these people, I said, no, I have everything that you need. So it's up to you to work with me. We're going to do many exercises together. We're going to walk this journey together, and we're going to make it.
What was running in your mind as you were telling them this?
Because I wanted to get their buy-in. It was very crucial for me to get their buy-in, because if I don't get their buy-in, then everything collapses. And I didn't want that to happen. Yeah, so they bought into the idea and, started doing exercises together, started, communicating, have that frank communication and that support that they needed. And, we managed to get in there. So actually, they passed actually almost the whole class. They passed and they were very excited. Then I moved on into another program. There's something they used to call it the African Virtual University, where, a university in Australia, will be teaching students here in Rwanda. So our role back here was to teach the students and then they get examined by the other university.
Again, another deep end.
Another deep end. And all my students actually, they will all pass. So, because I would put all my heart in. So what I've learned over that period is that whenever you have passion for something, and now you can relate to this, whenever you have passion for something, it works. Because you put in everything that you got, and with a little bit of luck, everything falls in place.
It falls in place.
Yeah, so, it really, put me out there. And, it shaped me into that. So when I came in now into the Ministry of Finance was a different ballgame. Public sector, and the public sector is really very different from what you do. So imagine you're coming from academia, private sector academia, then you move into public sector. It's a totally different, place. I tried to adapt. Good enough for us is that, we had a lot of senior people, which the government, I think, had hired from, the neighboring countries, that were accompanying us. Yeah. I remember, I think, my initial mentor was from Zimbabwe, actually. Yeah, so he got me into the role, started telling me, counseling me, showing me how to do things. Yeah. Then I get a couple of other people from Uganda as well that were working together. They also, provided me the support system, exposed me to different things. And basically around, I think, 2012, the government made, a deliberate attempt. They said, no, look, we think now it's time for our young Rwandans, to start now stepping up and taking up some of these roles. We can't keep paying foreign exchange for people to run jobs that we feel these young people can do. They have all what it takes. The other small bits and pieces that they haven't, mastered, they'll pick up as they move. Yeah, it was a huge gamble for them at the time, but I think it was a good gamble. Yeah, so then I became, I think in 2012, that's when I became the PFM coordinator to coordinate the PFM reforms for the government of Rwanda, which also opened up more opportunities, opportunities in terms of meeting different stakeholders and working with different people, different experts. Yeah, and it so happened that within that role, we're also supporting the institute.
Oh, yeah, which you were to later become.
Then I was appointed at the time to be a commissioner to set up the initial CPA program. So I was among the first commissioners that really looked at the syllabus, then, administered the first exam, I think was in December 2012. Yeah.
And at that time,
yes,
when you were looking into or supporting the institute from outside,
yes,
what were you seeing from outside that kept you feeling like, this?
So the biggest challenge that the institute had was like, yes, like any other development partners, they'll be throwing money at you, but then they expect you to come up with innovations, to come up with activities and all that. So as we were trying to, to extend resources, there was no a commensurate kind of response from the institute to be able to implement all these different things. Yeah. Then, we would discuss with colleagues, try to help them as much as we could, but still we feel that, we're not getting there. And the development partners actually came in strongly and said, if these guys don't give us a strategic plan, if they don't give us the strategic plan, if they don't do this, then I think we don't want to do anything with them. Then I said, but these are things that we do on a daily basis. What if somebody was on the other side? What would it look like? Yeah. Then it so happened that, at the institute, they had made a decision that they wanted to get in somebody, to come in and offer that fresh perspective. So they put up an advert. I bid like any other person. And actually, I beat them. Of course, the key challenge was like, at that time, I had not finished, becoming a chartered accountant, or it was a challenge. And people were wondering, can a chartered accountant, be able to manage? Yeah, I remember even they had to go into, asking for an advisory opinion from IFAC, whether a person who has not received this charter yet, whether he can be able to lead, a professional body, and the professional body can be able to succeed. And what was very interesting, IFAC came in and told them, look, guys, we have other entities like ACCI, for example.
Yeah.
When you look at the current chief executive, she's not an accountant by training, but she's done a wonderful job. She's done marvelous. He said, no, it has nothing to do. This is a leadership role. And the good news is that he has been around the institute. He understands what the institute, stands for and where it wants to get. We believe that he can get there. So give him a chance and to prove himself. So I was appointed, and then, for people to, and they had to understudy me, to find out whether I'll be up to the challenge. Initially, actually, I was given a 1-year contract.
1-year contract, which I'd like you to talk to us a bit about, because I understand that for such a role, there's a lot at stake in terms of those who are giving you this responsibility, because they really feel there's where we want to get. Looking back at what you just said in terms of the gaps, leadership gaps or the implementation gaps, and this is a time when probably being given this particular role, and there are still people questioning that appointment in that particular sense from the point that you talked about. What was your key items on your agenda that you said, look, if these guys just say, Amin, green light for you to go, what were those things that you just said, these are the key things I wanted to achieve?
For me, the key thing was to have a shared vision with the institute, because as soon as I got appointed, I went to the board and asked them, I said, okay, fine, you want us to create this wonderful institution, but what kind of institution exactly? I need to have a feel of what you really want. So we went in, and my first job was to come up with a strategic plan. So we worked on the strategic plan, a 5-year strategic plan, and I presented it, and I went back to the board and told them, yes, I know we have all these problems, we have all these issues, but I will need $12 million to put. And I said, I mean, are you out of your mind? Where are we going to get $12 million? We are still struggling with the basics. How are we going to do that? I said, no, I can raise this thing. I can raise half of it internally, and then the other ones, the other remaining half, we can talk to the different partners, development partners, government, and the like, and we can see how we can raise this. And if we can manage to show these people that internally we've been able to raise this much, then there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to give us the rest. But of course, we have to do a number of reforms. And one of the reforms is that we had to revamp our fee structure. Because at the time, I think we were, a person was paying $8,000 to do, a professional exam. And at that time, a kid in kindergarten, as tuition, they were paying, I think, something like $50,000.
And so it was more expensive for the kindergarten than...
Then I said, okay, fine. You guys want to create a professional person, and you want to spend only $8,000. But you have kids in kindergarten and you're paying way more. So why can't we also increase these fees so that we can be able to get the resources to implement all these wonderful things that we want to do?
How did the industry react to that?
The industry was ready, but I think the key problem was with the decision makers. A lot of people within the board itself or within the council, they were not really, quite a number of people were not really comfortable with the fees rising quite sharply within such a period of time. But I believe, so I worked closely with my chairman at the time, and we managed to get through. So we managed to raise the fees from 8,000 to 300,000. That's almost an 8 times increase. That's almost a 4 times increase into the fees. And that 4-time increase, I think it was quite huge. But it was a gamble that we're willing to take because, we had already even come up with a financial model, showing that, okay, so if we need to be at this level, this is what we need, and these are the resources that we need to raise. So by getting some of those measures through, then it means you're increasing your chances of getting the resources and now being able to implement the different activities that will take you into another level. So we're able to do that, and actually at the end of the financial year, exam revenue at the time increased 6 times.
6 times. So this is exam revenue, yes. But I'm sure you had a lot of convincing to do to those who are going to pay these high fees that just increased in that dramatic way in terms of value for money. What was your proposition?
Actually, when you look at the kind of opposition we're facing, it was not into the market itself. Yeah. It was into the boardroom itself. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the proposition, value proposition.
The value proposition,
but
yes,
this is the value
we are
proposition.
telling people yes. that, there are a lot of compelling evidence. When you even look at the salaries that were offered to people who have finished their certifications, yeah. It was way up there. When you look at also the competitors, mm-hmm. Which competitors do we have? We had the likes of ACCA, and people were paying in pounds, so it was way up there. We had the likes of CPAK, it was also way up there, and we were really at the bottom. And really, so we felt that the market was there, but a number of decision makers really were still hesitant for such a big move to happen. But I'm glad we were able to break that glass and be able to implement that new fee structure, which turned around everything. Yeah. Because with resources, if you have the right ideas, and you put your heart into one place, then you should be able to do a lot of wonderful things.
Right. So if you look back in terms of those wonderful ideas, and I agree with you, especially on just giving opportunities to these ideas and financing or giving them the resources for them to thrive. And I think this is what happened in that case. But I'm curious to understand, because you said resistance was not from outside, it was actually from inside. And that's quite difficult to maneuver around as a leader of an institution when within the powerful circles that are supposed to give you the support, it is not actually in that form. I'm trying to understand the life lessons that probably you'd have learned or you had learned growing up, those moments that you just earlier talked about. How did they play a role in you staying composed and keeping your eyes focused on this vision and not bulging? Because some CEOs would bulge, will say the board has refused, so guys, we're going to do what the board has said. But here you are saying, I believe in this idea, and if really resourced properly, it's going to turn around this institute. How did you deal with that?
Yes, so for me the choice was really straightforward. So when I was looking at the institute, I was looking at an institute as a patient. So you have a patient who's on life support. Yeah. And if you don't administer the right medicine, this patient, you could lose the patient. Of course, the dosage that you're going to administer is going to be painful. Sometimes this patient might collapse initially, and then they may have to resuscitate a bit later and be able, to get well again. Yeah, so to me, I looked at it, I said, okay, fine. If I don't implement these initiatives, it means that we're not going to, kickstart off the institute, give it a new lease of life. So it means I'll have failed in my job. If I gamble a little bit and push some of these things through, probably we have an opportunity. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. So why not go for it? After all, if I don't do anything, I've lost. So at least there's a small chance, that 1% chance of succeeding. So let me go for that 1% chance.
Yeah, and you took it.
Yes.
And you took it. And now, here you are. You've already succeeded in achieving the aspect of the revenue streams to support the ideas that you want to achieve. What else was top on your agenda?
Yeah, so now we started having that. Now, the other key aspect that we had, which was very challenging, was turning around the image of the institution. Yeah, so you could pick up an average person on the street and you ask them, what is ICPA? They have no clue what this institution is about. So it means that you're not relevant within the market. Even the key stakeholders, majority of them, they didn't want to associate with the institute. Others also didn't have a clue about it. So you have to get them on board. Yeah, remember, even in terms of resources, you have the 50% that you can raise internally, but you also need the ones externally. So you have to go to the different stakeholders and explain how you want. So one of the things that we found out was that as accountants, we had been talking to ourselves for too long. So we had to change our messaging and start talking to things that resonate with the ordinary people or with the people out there in the wider society.
So there's a lot of jargon going around.
Yes, accountants, IPSAS, IFRS, and all those things. Yeah, so we had to go and because when you go to the Ministry of Finance, the key question they would ask you, say, okay, fine, yes, if we build this wonderful profession you guys are saying, so what is in it for the country? Yeah. So you have to explain that relationship and how it's going to contribute to economic development, how it's going to, resolve some of the issues that we have within the society. Yeah. Yes, so we had to move to that level. And in some cases, you just don't do it over a conference or anything, no. So we had to use a variety of methods. Sometimes we would have all these, for a particular stakeholder, sometimes you would even have, those coffee chats. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you go and sit somewhere.
Just to make them understand.
Just to make them understand that small aspect. So when you get these aspects together, you link them together, now you start getting the big picture of where things are headed. Yeah,
it's quite interesting because a lot in terms of the visibility of the Institute, it's quite evident. And I must say this, even the idea of just saying, look, we want to even invest in a podcast, for example, the ICPAR Exchange, which I would like you to just talk a bit about also in terms of the vision, the brains behind, the overall idea. And I'm privileged to actually be the host of the ICPAR Exchange, and thank you very much for that. But I would like to understand also the behind-the-scenes thought process of it in terms of the KPIs. What is it that you might be able to tell that person who's out there running an institution and is wondering, why do we even need a podcast?
Yeah, so Eugene, imagine, I want to give you a scenario. Imagine walking into a room full of people and nobody recognizes you or nobody cares who you are.
Some people might take it differently. Some would be very relieved, others would be not relieved.
I'm not saying me as a person per se.
Okay.
I mean like an institution or like a brand.
Oh yeah,
you get a brand, you get it into a room, and nobody recognizes what this brand is about.
Yeah, that's terrible.
What it does, So it's kind of disheartening. Yeah. So then, how do you get now the situation around? It means that you need to start telling your own story. You need to talk about the good things about the thing to attract people's attention. And the kind of value that you can bring, on the table, the value propositions, the wonderful things that, you can talk so that people, can begin to listen. And when you look at Rwanda as a country, when you look at the kind of ambitions that the top leadership has set, it's clear cut, it's set in stone. Everything is very clear. We're going Vision 2050. We want to be, a high income country. Yeah. They have moved now a bit further. They have said, okay, fine, let's set up, the Kigali International Finance Center. Let's set Kigali up as an international finance center. Yeah. But then in that strategy of setting up the Kigali International Finance Center, you need people who are skilled, who are world class, who can be able to support, that initiative so that, that sector can be able to deliver. Yeah, so you look at, I'm glad you are at the ECV, ECV 7. Yeah, they were talking about the different the different businesses that are there. If I even go a little bit back at the census that we finished, it talks about 300,000 businesses that operate in this country and are paying taxes regularly. So now, all those, they need to get people to support them. You need professional people, professional accountants to support them. Yeah, these people may be, senior accountants, or they may just be technicians, but they need to support these businesses, and work with them throughout the journey to make sure that they grow, into bigger enterprises, and then they're able to meet their bottom line and all those kind of things. Yeah, so you look at all these, challenges. Yeah, so now it became very clear that, so you realize that, remember, we live in a country of 1,000 hills, but, there's also 1,000 smiles, but there's also 1,000 problems as well that we can't forget, and all these sectors or these different, areas, they also need resources. Yeah, so how do you make your case? Yeah, so you have to show the magnitude of the problem. You show how it is curtailing, the development, potential, of the country, so that, you can get now the necessary attention and the necessary resources to be able to push this thing through.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now, how do you tell your story? You never tell your story. There's only one way to tell a story. Yeah, you have to engage media. You have to be on these things like the podcasts, so that you can, get the opportunity to get that conversation going. Yeah, so that, people, the more people understand. One thing that I've liked about our country is that once they have understood something, you can be sure that
you get a buy-in.
You get a buy-in, you get all the support you need, and the sky can only be the limit.
The sky can only be the limit. So I need to make a case for one of these potentially a challenge, but also an opportunity, especially for the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Rwanda, and it's the number of professional accountants that the country will need. Like you just said, we're talking about over 300,000 businesses that are actually in need of professionals in this area. And I know you are doing quite a good job in training. Talk to me a bit about that ratio of the need versus the accountants that you're checking out over the period of time that they're going through the trainings at ICPAR. When you sit back, does it give you any sleepless nights in terms of, are we really getting the right number at the right period of time that will be able to serve this country and the region as required?
Yeah, it's something that keeps me awake at night. Yeah, because we need that critical mass of people, but at the same time, it's not just about the number, it's also about the quality. Yeah, because remember, Rwanda set itself as a high-end destination. Yeah. So it means you must have the right quality to be able to support, the ecosystem that exists. Yeah, so we've started the conversation. We've had conversation within the education sector. Yeah, even at the recent, budget consultations, it's something that, we brought out very clearly. We started discussing with the stakeholders, and good enough is that general buy-in that, this is a serious issue that we need to confront. And the good news is that it's taken us a long time. So I would say, like, on the current roll, we have around 1,200, members. And you can see we've been there for quite a while.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Yeah, so if we continue at that pace, we're not going to reach there. So now we have like a two-pronged approach. Catch them when they are young. That's one of the strategies that we've gone for. So we want to go for these secondary school children. We move with them, they become accounting technicians. Yeah, because remember, most of the businesses within the country are small and micro enterprises. So they don't need those high-level skills. So at that level, you can get in the right people. And this way, because they have gone into that discipline of being certified and, working professionally, for them to scale up and become senior accountants like CPAs, it becomes much easier. We've also, there are also initiatives that the government has been working on. They have been supporting, universities, high-performing students within universities. So those are numbers that you can have. Even when we talk about secondary school, so I would say, like, in secondary school, when you look at accounting option students, you're talking about close to 8,000 students who are doing accounting within secondary itself. So if those ones can get the support, so it means now you're beginning to build the right base. Yeah, so the kind of dilemma that currently we're facing, it's, so we have very few people at the bottom and we have a lot of people on the top. So imagine a healthcare system where you have few doctors, where you have quite a substantial number of doctors and very few nurses. How does that healthcare system work? Things become difficult. Yeah, so that's what we want to rebalance. We want to make sure that we create the right foundation and able to move. And we've come up with, later in the year, we want to go digital. Yes, so we want to move from paper-based examinations to computer-based examinations. We want to move into, integrated learning management systems, where whether you're seated because one of the key challenges we found was there was a general lack of access. Yeah. Either due to geographical locations, people being maybe very far in rural areas, but now with technology, those are barriers that you can easily knock off, and you're able to scale up. And actually, it also means that the market is not actually restricted only to Rwanda. No, it means now, because it's online, it means any person anywhere in the world, they could be doing this. Because I know in most of our neighboring countries, particularly the ones in the west and the south, there's nothing much going there. There's nothing much going on in terms of, the accountant's profession and how they do these things. So for me, if I was some of the people, around that area, I would jump on this opportunity, prepare myself. Yes, we're into chaos now, but after chaos, life moves on.
There's always a calm after the storm.
Yes.
And as you make a case for that, I'm keen to understand how you are trying to transform that perception of the accounting career. First of all, for that person going to school who probably feels traditionally we've made it look like it's a mathematics thing, and so it's going to be tough for you, especially if you don't understand mathematics. So this I don't want to go into. Secondly, even 1,000 and many years ago, even in the Bible, the accountants, it's actually the oldest profession. But in the way it's portrayed in that sense, the tax collectors and everybody else in that sense, there's been this cloud that has been hanging over it from that perception perspective. How do we deal with this? First of all, from that fear of the unknown, that this is a tough career, it's a tough thing that requires you to be tough from an academic choice of lessons. And then also, these are those who are perceived in this manner from a faith-based perspective. How are you dealing with this, and how can we fix this?
Well, I would say that accounting, first and foremost, it's an open profession. It's a profession that welcomes people from all walks of life. Yeah. So we have people who are engineers, who are accountants. I told you one of my past chairman was an engineer. He's an engineer actually by profession. Then we have others who are even medical doctors. We have others who are coming in from the humanities. Actually, a huge chunk, a sizable chunk also comes from the humanities, and they're positioned into this. So the beauty about our profession, we make sure that, people start from down there, you get the right background, and then you move up. So it doesn't matter which background you're coming from, whether it is weak, whether it is whichever field, so we have a way of how we level you up and make sure that, you're able to move up, quite easily. And the beauty about the accountant's profession, it's one of those professions that when you zoom in through the profession itself, there are so many subsectors within the profession, and we are the only profession actually which borders with so many other professions. Yeah. So if I take an example, if somebody is an information systems auditor, for example, this guy would be, high tech, dealing with IT things, dealing with systems. So it means, it's easy to attract those people who are IT geeks, to come into that. We have, quite a number of professional accountants who are into leadership and managerial roles. And some of them are even doing quite a good job. So it's so an area, because the more you grow up in the ladder, you always end up in a leadership role. So it also borders with that. If you're a person who is into, figures as well, when you look at some of the things that now auditors are being told to do, it's quite interesting. The shareholders are telling you, or the stakeholders, they ask yourself, okay, can you tell us whether this particular company will be in existence in the next 5 to 10 years? Yeah. It means, you need
to understand the trends.
You need to understand the trends. You have to do your trend analysis. You have to do this. So if you're into that space, the economics that teacher, it really bodes well with you. You can get in. Yeah, so accounting is a wonderful, is a wonderful opportunity. Yeah, even within itself, it's quite huge enough. So if you get bored with one subsector, you can easily transition into another one. Yeah, but you're still within the same universe.
Yeah. Interesting. And if you're to look at the respect that the sector is given, and the role in terms of this, the space on the table, not as the menu. We are all on the table, and some of us has menu or the food. From a national development perspective, I know sometimes the books, the public accounting reports are brought out, red flags are raised, and then sometimes some people have felt, it's those other things, and it might not be just here in Rwanda. We see in other countries where even the Auditor General's report comes, but nothing happens. It just becomes business as usual in other jurisdictions. How do you ensure that this profession is fully respected at a national level in terms of its contribution to national development?
Yeah, I would say that slowly there's a growing realization that accountants are bringing a lot of value on the table. And it has never, when I look at the current situation we're in, I think it's the right moment, because we're into an era where we're saying, we are doing away with aid. We don't want this aid that, curtails our development agenda. We don't want this aid that has strings attached. Yeah, so now it means that countries now have to start, relying on their own internal resources. Yeah, so if countries are going to rely on their own internal resources, it means that the level of scrutiny that's going to be applied on some of these resources is going to be higher than than before, because the basket is not that very big, and you want to make sure that as a country you get the most out of it. Yeah.
I want to transition this conversation to something very interesting that is coming to this country, and I know it follows another one that was just a regional level, and the regional level that I'm talking about was the East African Congress of Accountants. But now, you, under your patronage as the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Rwanda, you are going to be bringing in the Africa Congress of Accountants.
That's right.
Quite huge, and I know there's a lot the country is going to tap into this. So I'm not going to ask you what will this do for the country or how important this is. What I'm going to ask you is, how have we prepared to make sure that we leverage on everything that this particular Congress is going to be bringing on the table? And then we'll talk a bit more about some of the themes and how they attach to our day-to-day activities and lives.
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, it's a privilege for us to be able to host such a huge gathering. It's something that we've not been able to do before. So if you compare with the East African Congress, this is 3 times larger than what we've had. And it means, as an institute, you're constantly into the limelight. Yes, you're able to do it at the East African level. Can you do it at the African level? Yeah, and we're getting everyone, to descend into Kigali, all the way from the IFAC president, the IFAC CEO, the standard-setting bodies. So most accountants, they would use the standards, but they've never seen the people behind all those huge books, on the standards. So now you get the opportunity to interact with these people firsthand. Tell them your challenges that you encounter when you're implementing these standards. If you want them to tweak a few things, you raise your voice. Then also, we also want to showcase what accountants can be able to bring on the table. We believe, given the current circumstances that countries find themselves in, where you have tariffs, left, right, center, where you have, reductions in foreign aid, where you have protectionism, where countries are beginning to start looking inside and nobody wants to get outside. We also have, the continental free trade area going on. Yeah, we think this is the right time now, as a global profession, to say, hey, we can make a proper contribution. This is what we can do. So when I look at some of the expert forums that we have, I was just looking at the program the other day, and I noted actually we have Close to 20 expert forums.
20 expert forums over the period that this Congress
over
is
that
taking
period
place.
of 1 week, you know, talking about different topics.
Yeah. How do you ensure that this is not a missed opportunity?
You know, the first and foremost is I'll call it it's an open event. Anybody can just walk in, you know, do the registration, pay the relevant fees, and walk in, and you know, you're able to participate into the conversations. Then secondly, you know, it's an opportunity for us as accountants profession now to reach out to the public. Yeah. You know, so we'll be having a lot of you know, media activity, you know, to discuss different, you know, dissect these difficult topics, you know, that people are struggling to understand, and then, you know, make it very clear how, you know, we can make our contribution to the society. Yeah, because when you look at Eugene, when you look at these other developed countries, there's one thing that they have in common. All of them, they have, you know, professional accountants. Yeah. They write numbers. Yeah, yeah. When you look at the population vis-a-vis how many professional accountants they have, the ratio is quite higher. And some of us, we are really struggling. And sometimes you will not believe it. People have to, you know, get some of these expatriates, and who are very expensive. Yeah, you know, and it's not everyone who can be able to manage that. And we think those are things that need to change. Right.
And I know the theme is creating value for Africa. Yes. And for you, from where you sit, what would value for Africa look like?
Eugene, that's quite a tricky one. But I'll try to. Yeah. Yeah, because one of the things that people look, if I'm a business, a lot of businesses ask themselves, what should I have, you know, why should I have a CP on my books? Yeah. What value is he bringing to my organization? You know, what contribution are we making, you know, to the overall environment that we operate in? And that's what we will be discussing. Yeah, because now, you know, we are now talking about everything now is looked up into the value. You know, what value are you bringing on board? What contribution are you making? And is it worth, you know, the cost that I'm incurring to get you on board? Correct. So if it so happens that, you know, the contribution is much more than the costs, then it means you're a person worth having.
Yeah, I agree. And I remember the East Africa Congress of Accountants also was keen on ensuring that it is not just a forum just speaking on accounting issues. It had different themes, including AI and all that. Is this the same here? Because this is bigger. And so I just want to understand, for someone who's watching or listening to us right now and they are not in any way within the accounting profession, how do they plug in? This is exclusive accountants.
No, it's not for accountants. Yeah. There are quite a number of interesting thematic areas that will be looked into. One of them is how to maximize, like, you know, the net worth. You know, so we'll be having economists. We're going to be having, we're privileged to have Dr. Donald Kaberuka with us, you know, to explore, you know, how, you know, countries can be able to maximize their net worth. Then we have other interesting sessions like the content of free trade area. Yeah, we launched this thing, everybody's excited, but then how do we get, you know, things moving? How do we move faster than the current pace at which we are moving? So we have other things like sustainability. Sustainability is becoming a huge issue. Yeah. It's becoming a huge issue. There are new standards that have been issued, S1 and S2, where now, as accountants, we're no longer just interested into the, or when you look at companies currently, they're no longer only interested into, you know, looking at the bottom line or how much money they've made. Now they're more interested into, you know, because we've come to realize that, you know, we only have one planet. So if we destroy it, then all these businesses we're talking about, where we're going to set the business from, it has to be set on this same planet where we are. So you have to take care of the environment that you're in. Yeah, because, you know, we can say whatever we want, but if we don't have a good environment in which we can be able to operate, then we have nothing. Yeah, so sustainability is a key issue. So these standards have kicked in. So companies are grappling with how to do their reports, and and for us also, even as professional accountants, also grappling how we're going to audit some of this information. Yeah. Then there are also issues of how do we even measure the financial position of a country. Yeah, some people have just been measuring the cash that is available.
Yeah, and they don't look at the natural resources.
Yes, so say no. Can we now go into the natural resources? Can we be able to identify them? Give them a value, a monetary value, so that these things can be monitored over time. Yeah, because if you can't, you've been in the statistics. I saw there was a very interesting slogan. If you don't count, you don't count. So those are some of the things. So we'll be having a lot of things like on leadership. You're asking me about value creation. There's an interesting topic that I saw on the program, which talks about success stories that are being created by accountants across.
Nice. And if you don't tell these stories,
and some of these stories, there'll be a lot very inspirational. So we'll be having quite I'm told even Robert is going to be coming, Robert Kabushenga. The former MD of the New Vision. Interesting. He's a very eloquent speaker, and I know he's very passionate about creating value in the coffee sector. And these are areas that accountants also can be able to contribute. Actually, when you look at an accounting, what actually makes accounting very unique, we're the only profession that contributes to all the other sectors. So if you're a doctor, you're only into the medical field, but accountants, you'll find them everywhere, in every sector. So you can look at the multiplier impact that the accountancy profession can be able to create, and the synergy that it brings. If it merges well with the other sectors, it's quite wonderful.
Right. So what you're telling me is whoever fails to attend has a lot to miss out on.
A lot. It's a one in a lifetime. Eugene, to be honest with you, the next time Rwanda will ever get a chance to host an ACOA, probably to be after 30 years. Because this is an event that goes around the different regions within Africa. And remember, even within your region, you have countries that have not hosted. So far, the only country that have hosted is Uganda and Rwanda. Uganda hosted in 2017. Rwanda has come in now, and it's because we've been very aggressive. But I imagine all the other countries within East Africa, they would also want to claim an opportunity to do so. So when are we going to have the chance for Rwanda? So it means the time is now.
The time is now. And so how is ICPAR and the country at large, do you feel is actually preparing the legacy of this particular forum, hosting this specific Congress? How are you positioning to ensure that we're able to measure the success and say it was a once-in-a-lifetime Congress that we hosted, and this is how we are measuring its success, or where we had some shortcomings? Are there such kind of
I know some of my colleagues, they are working on calls of action that will be coming out during the Congress. You're going to be seeing, we're going to be engaging quite aggressively with the media, to get out some of these conversations, to get out them within the broader, perspectives. We're also going to be having an opportunity where we're having actually even ministers, joining some of the panel discussions. Also understanding, hearing firsthand, how we're creating value for Africa. So I think it's going to be a very interesting, conversation. Which probably will keep going even much after the Congress has ended. But something that will keep going. And we also hope that it also open up other doors in terms of tourism, in terms of businesses and people working across borders. Because we've said, and it has been said time and again, Rwanda is open for business. So that's what we want to reinforce.
Correct. I know we've been speaking for close to an hour. And before I let you go, I'm really keen to understand when all is said and done, and your time as CEO of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Rwanda comes to a close. How do you want to be remembered?
I just want to be remembered as a person who set the foundation. Yeah, I know we have a lot of wonderful people, a lot of talent within this country, who will be able to, expound on what we've, on the background that we'll have set, and then, ensure that, Rwanda is one of those countries that can be able to export high quality accountants. It's always my dream to, at least in every corner of Rwanda, I would dream to have a certified accountant in every corner of this country, so that we have enough here at home. We have even enough that we can be able to export to other countries that have a deficit. Right.
Interesting. And if we were to give you a chance here to be our resident DJ, what would be your stage name? Yeah. Oh, story for another day.
That's a story for another day. You've just caught me.
Story for another day. Sure. But what I know is we can also give you a role as an anchor, because you told me the accounting profession allows you to pack the accounting and still do and segue into others. And so we're in need of anchors, reporters,
actually,
panel moderators.
I'll be frank with you.
Yeah.
I've had a very interesting lifestyle.
Yeah.
Actually, I used to be every Saturday.
Yeah.
There was a program on Radio Rwanda, which used to be said Imboni Mufana.
Yes. Yes.
It was so I used to be one of the hosts on that program.
Really?
Seriously.
Yeah.
So it was around 2016. Yeah, 2016. I think stopped around 2017. Yeah. So it's a show that ran for almost 2 years. Yeah. And I used to give my time there. Yeah. Go there as a CEO. I'll keep enjoy my football. Yeah. Give my insights. Technical analysis and all that. Yeah. Yeah. So why not try now?
It's something we can discuss.
Why not?
I always tell people, once a journalist, always one. It never stops.
Sure.
Asante sana. Thank you very much for making time and for being part of this conversation today. It was very insightful.
Sure.
Asante. Thank you. And there you have it. We have had a very interesting conversation right here. And we hope that you liked it. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you learned. And I hope it inspired you to continue looking at yourself, first of all, from a leadership perspective. How are you leading with purpose? How are you leading with authenticity? How are you leading for impact? And this is what we've been trying to talk about right here on this particular program. We thank you, and we'll be able to see you, and you'll be able to hear from us again next time, same place, same time. As always, my name is Eugene Anangwe. Goodbye for now.
Gateway to East Africa. In a world where media shapes perceptions, one company stands out as a beacon of innovation and excellence. Whether you're seeking expert media support, events planning, mentorship, or corporate media training, East Africa Media Group is your trusted partner every step of the way. From audio-visual production to TV and radio broadcast.
Right here from
We are your destination for top quality content and services. Our team of talented professionals, from journalists
free and moving well.
To technical specialists, are at the heartbeat of our success. Welcome to East Africa Media Group, where creativity meets expertise and passion drives results.